Good afternoon, everyone. Here you can see the title of my thesis, in which we have tried to understand the effect of feedback from active galactic nuclei on their surrounding environment by looking at the X-ray properties of galaxy groups and clusters. Now, as you know that most of the galaxies in our universe host a supermassive black hole in them, and some of these are active and they accrete material from their surrounding medium and become more massive and more luminous. These class of supermassive black holes are called active galactic nuclei. Now, due to the accretion of material onto the black hole, they release a huge amount of energy to their ambient environment, and a fraction of this radiated energy again gets linked to the surrounding medium itself, and this phenomenon is called active galactic nuclei feedback. Now, it has been observed that AGN feedback has significant influence on the properties of the host galaxies as well as host dark matter halo of the central black hole. And one of the best ways to study the effect of AGN feedback activity is through the X-ray observation of galaxy clusters. Now, the diffuse gas inside the galaxy clusters are heated to a very high temperature due to the gravitational infall inside the massive potential of the clusters. At this very high temperature, the primary emission of the galaxy clusters mostly fall in the X-ray band. Now, here you can see a multi-wavelength observation of a galaxy cluster where the blue shows the X-ray observation using the Chandra telescope, which can also be seen from this top right panel. Now you see that the two regions adjacent to the black holes are free of any hot X-ray emitting gas, and they are believed to be formed due to the AGN feedback activity from the central black hole. So it has been believed that the feedback energy coming from the central black hole is displacing the hot gas from the surrounding region to an outward radius and thereby creating these X-ray cavities. So basically, by looking at the distribution of the hot gas inside the galaxy cluster, we can infer more about the feedback activity inside this system. For example, the existence of such X-ray cavities inside the galaxy clusters are one of the direct evidences of feedback activity in this system. So motivated by these, we plan to study the AGN feedback effect in more detail by looking at the X-ray emission coming from the vicinity of the black holes at the galaxy groups and cluster scale, as well as by studying different scaling properties of the AGN with their host galaxies as well as host dark matter halo. Now, we have carried out most of our work in this thesis using cosmological simulation, as it has certain advantages of its own over the other techniques that are used to study this AGN feedback phenomenon. Now, throughout our thesis, we have used two sets of cosmological simulation, one ran by Khandai et al. 2015 and another by DiMatteo et al. 2008. Both are cosmological hydrodynamic simulation and based on gauge code, and they include various components of the universe such as gas, dark matter, stars, and the associated supernova feedback, and most importantly, the supermassive black holes and their feedback from them. So here in this table, you can see the parameters of both the simulations. Now, the gas is modeled in both the simulations using a technique called smooth particle hydrodynamics, and the dark matter is modeled using a hybrid technique called three-particle mesh. And due to the limited resolution of cosmological simulation, the formation of stars, black holes, and their associated feedback is modeled using subgrid physics. All right, now let us come to the main focus of my thesis. So in the first part, so it can be divided into three parts. So in the first part, we have studied different large-scale observables and trying to understand them in the light of feedback from active galactic nuclei. So here I'll show you some of the key results of this part of my thesis. And let me begin with the scaling relation between the black hole and its host halo. So, and we have also studied the redshift evolution of the scaling relation by investigating them at two different redshift, that is at redshift 1 and redshift 0.1. And for this work, we have divided our black hole sample into two categories. One is central black hole and another is satellite black hole. Now first look at this left panel where we have studied the correlation between the black hole mass with their host halo mass. So here you see that the central black hole mass is increasing with the increase of its host halo mass, while the satellite black hole is increasing very slightly at first and then gets saturated at the higher end of the host halo mass. And we do not see any redshift evolution for this correlation for either the central or the satellite black hole population. Now, in the right panel, we see the correlation between the black hole bolometric luminosity with their host halo mass. And here also we see that the satellite black hole bolometric luminosity is increasing with its host halo mass, but we see a gradual decrement for the bolometric luminosity of the satellite black hole population with its host halo mass. And here again, we do not see any redshift evolution of this correlation. So we basically see a suppression of the black hole mass and the luminosity inside the massive halo. And this hint towards a deficiency of the cold gas inside the halo, as we know that black hole primarily grow by accreting material from their surrounding medium and become more massive and luminous. So one of the possible explanation of this unavailability of the cold gas inside the massive halo is the AGN feedback activity. As we explain it in terms like that, AGN feedback from the active galactic nuclei is energizing the surrounding gas as well as moving them to an outward radius, and thus, they halt the supply of the cold gas inside this massive halo, which in turn result to a suppression of the black hole growth in them. And we try to understand this event in more detail by looking at the radial profile of the density and temperature of the gas in the vicinity of the entire black hole population in our simulation, both in the presence and absence of AGN feedback. So this is seen here. The left and right panel shows the the density and temperature profile respectively in the presence and absence of AGN feedback. So here we see that the gas density is indeed reduced at the central region in the presence of AGN feedback, whereas temperature of the gas is higher when the feedback from the AGN is present in our simulation. All right, so here after investigating the AGN feedback from different scaling relation, in this part of my thesis, we focus on the second part where we have studied the imprint of feedback from active galactic nuclei from the X-ray emission of its ambient medium. And here we begin by theoretically modeling the X-ray emission from galaxy groups and cluster scale. And for that purpose, we have selected the gas properties such as temperature, density, metallicity, etc. from our simulation. And we couple them with the astrophysical plasma emission code or APEC to incorporate a detailed X-ray emission mechanism in our theoretical model. So this is a theoretical X-ray map around a black hole at redshift 1. And one thing should be mentioned here that we have not considered any X-ray emission coming from the central AGN itself in our work because it has the potential of contaminating the diffuse emission, which is of our primary interest for this work. All right. And after that, we plan to perform a synthetic observation of this system in order to compare them with actual observation and to test the validity of our model. And so we have performed this synthetic X-ray observation with the help of a photon simulator called the Model of AXAF Response to X-rays or MARCS. This is a ray tracing simulator of the onboard Chandra X-ray telescope. So here you can see the synthetic X-ray map of the same system that I showed in the previous slide. And this is a 200 kilosecond synthetic Chandra X-ray map, and color bar shows the photon number count. Sorry. So here you see that all the signatures that were visible in the previous, in the theoretical X-ray map cannot be resolved from the synthetic X-ray map, and we explain these in terms of the limited angular resolution of Chandra telescope. So we see that no signature of AGN feedback can be studied from the individual observations of this high redshift system. So we try to stack the X-ray emission from all the systems in our simulation, both in the presence and absence of AGN feedback, and we try to stack them, and we obtain a stacked X-ray surface brightness profile. So this is shown here. Here the left and right panel shows the stacked X-ray surface brightness profile obtained from theoretical model and from the mock observation, both in the presence and absence of AGN feedback. So here we see that the presence of AGN feedback suppresses the X-ray emission at the central region. So basically in this part of my thesis, I have developed a machinery to perform the synthetic X-ray observation starting from the cosmological simulation data, and the results of this our work shows that AGN feedback results in a suppression of the X-ray emission in their vicinity. All right, now let's come to the third part of our thesis, where we have tried to test the robustness of all the results by comparing them with the other simulation. So as you see that all the results that we have obtained so far based on same cosmological simulation, that is GAGE. So we try to understand whether all these results are artifact of this particular cosmological simulation or if they are ubiquitous. For that purpose, we started working with SIMBA, which is another cosmological simulation and which is also based on the physical models that are different from K15 and D08. So here in this table, you can see the parameters of different SIMBA runs. And another advantages of working with SIMBA is that it takes into account a more detailed model of black hole accretion, as well as it incorporates different modes of feedback from active galactic nuclei. So here you can see a result of this SIMBA simulation. So this is actually a X-ray surface brightness profile for two different redshifts obtained with SIMBA data for different feedback modes. So the red shows the scenario where all the feedback modes are present in the simulation, and this green cross shows the scenario where no AGN feedback is present. So here also we see that the presence of all the AGN feedback modes reduces the X-ray emission at the central region, which is in accordance with our previous results that we obtained using the K15 and D08 data. And also here we see that in addition to radiative feedback, jet and X-ray modes of feedback also play important role in suppressing the X-ray emission from the central region. So here I'll stop now, and this slide shows, so I'll leave the summary of my thesis in this slide, and I thank you all for listening.